In this tutorial, we will have a look how we can make this petrol enemy. So if I just go ahead and then click on this play button, you will able to notice this enemy just gonna patrol around our platform ground. As you can see, as soon as our game started, this enemy just started moving left and right, basically patrolling around this platform ground, as you can see. And if I move over to my animator tab, we can see we have multiple animation, and if we trigger this attack parameter, we can see it's playing the attack animation. And if we trigger, sorry, if we set this attack parameter to true, or basically set it to true or check, as you can see it's playing the attack animation clip. And if we trigger this heart parameter, we can notice it's playing the heart animation clip. And if we trigger this death parameter, now it's playing the death animation clip. So we're gonna have a look, and I'm gonna get out of play mode. So we will have all of this animation, and how we can make transition between this animation, as well as how we can make this enemy patrolling around this ground. And before I jump into the coding part, I want to thanks Sanesh Ketmin, Tex, Roll City, and Nith, and a special thanks to Dumb Clips on the internet. And if you guys want to do that, you can do so on Patreon, and by donating me you can unlock many benefits. So make sure, and also the source code of this game will be available in the description. You can go and check that out. Basically you can purchase that. So without furthering any delay, let's dive into this complete tutorial. So let's make our enemy. To do so, I'm gonna head over to my project tab, then assets, and then I will head over to my sprites folder. So let's head over to sprites folder. Then I'm gonna move over to my enemies folder, and I will select this E3 as E3 folder, and I have the sprite right over here, as you can notice. So if you sorry, if I select any of them, let's suppose the first one, then go over to inspector and then click on this open sprite editor, we can see our enemy. Basically I'm going to choose this yellow one instead. As you can see, this is our enemy. So we're going to create, so we will find our work animation sprite sheet. So let's find that one. So I guess this one is work. Yes, this one. So we're gonna select all of them by holding down shift, all of those sprite sheet. And of course I will have a link in the description of this sprite sheet. You can go and check that out, and go over to inspector, and we're gonna choose sprite mode to multiple, because we can see we have multiples enemies at one sprite sheet. So that's why. And to get rid of blurry, we're gonna choose filter mode to point of filter in the inspector. And pixel per unit, we're gonna choose a less number in order to make this sprite larger. So let's make it something around 16, and let's click on this apply button in the bottom right. And now if we just go over to, I'm gonna select my game view, let's move over to that sprite sheet. Let's work with our work one. So I'm gonna select the work sprite sheet, I have it over here. So let's select that. Let's go over to inspector, let's click on this open sprite editor. So as you can see, this seems pretty much fine. So we're gonna slice it, instead of slicing automatic, we're gonna slice in the grid by cell count, and it's gonna be perfect. So that's why. So make sure you select the sprite sheet, then go over to inspector, and then click on this open sprite editor. And inside our sprite editor top left, we can see slice. So let's click there, and we're gonna select automatic to grid by cell count, and let's count how many columns and rows we have. So 3, 6, 9, 10. So 10 columns we have. So we're gonna put 10 columns and one row. Let's click on this slice, and then click on this apply button in the sprite editor tab. You can find in the top right in your sprite editor tab. And once we're done, I'm gonna select my game view, and if we move over to that sprite sheet, I'm gonna select the first sprite. So let's select that, and let's drag it into our scene view or into this hierarchy. So as you can notice, our sprite seems too much bigger, so we need to make it a small. So basically we need to increase our pixel per unit number. So I'm gonna select our sprite one more time, then go over to inspector, and let's make this pixel per unit something around 25. And after doing that, let's click on this apply button, and now we can see the sprite seems pretty much cool. And we can notice and in our hierarchy, so if we move to hierarchy in the bottom, I can see that game object, and let's drag it in the top so we can see all the time. And instead of calling this skeleton underscore 01, we're gonna call this one something like enemy. Let's call this one, I'm gonna call this enemy 5. So since I have many enemies, so that's why I just want to rename this enemy 5. So let's call it, and I want to flip this enemy to the left side. So how we can do that? We can simply move over to inspector, transform, and scale in the X. We can put -1, and as soon as we put -1, it just flipped to the left direction. But it's a wrong way to do that. Basically, this is not a fine way. Instead of flipping our enemy in the transform, when I flip in basically we're gonna move over to sprite renderer, and we're gonna flip x axis or horizontally. So I'm gonna set back this scale x in the -1 to 1, and we're gonna flip in sprite editor, sprite renderer. So we're gonna choose our enemy 5, then we will move over to inspector, sprite and renderer, and we're gonna flip in the x-axis or horizontally. So that's why we're gonna check this x1, and now as soon as we checked, this now flips to the left direction. And we will add some components to this enemy game object. First thing, we're gonna add a rigid body 2D for gravity. So let's click on this add component in the inspector. So make sure you select your enemy 5 in the hierarchy first, then go over to inspector, click on this add component, and we're gonna add a rigid body 2D. So let's type that, and we're gonna attach it. So now we attach, as you can see, and body type I'm gonna leave it to dynamic, and I want to scale up the gravity a little bit. So we can just move over to gravity scale to something like 3 I'm gonna set, and collision detection I'm gonna choose continuous, and interpolate we can choose interpolate to making little bit smooth, or you can just skip this part. And we need to freeze the rotation about z axis. If we don't do that, and if we select our enemy 5 in the hierarchy, then move over to inspector, transform and rotation, and play around with the z axis, as you can see it's gonna rotate like this. To get rid of that, we need to freeze the rotation about z axis. So I'm gonna set back to 0. Let's go to rigid body 2D, and I'm gonna freeze the rotation about z axis. So let's go over to rigid body 2D, then move over to constraint in the bottom, and we're gonna freeze the rotation about z axis. Now it's not gonna rotate like that. And we also need to attach one more component, which is our basically you can say box collider 2D. So this player game objects just gonna land top of this tile map or tile crown, you can say. So that's gonna be fine. So let's click on this add component, and we're gonna attach a box collider 2D, and we need to edit the collider as the size of our enemy sprite. So let's click on this box collider 2D in the inspector, and let's click on this edit collider, and we're gonna edit the collider as the size of our enemy, something like this. And this seems pretty much fine, as you can notice. So I hope you get the idea. And now if we just go ahead and then click on this play button, you will able to notice this enemy just gonna fall down due to gravity, since we added rigid body 2D, which is responsible for adding gravity, and we attach box collider 2D in order to detect collision. So it's just gonna land on top of that ground, or that platform ground, you can simply say. So now we can notice that. So just wait a moment. As you can see, indeed, as soon as our game started, it just fall down due to our rigid body 2D, which adds up gravity. So now what we need to do, we basically need to make the animation. So we will get out of play mode, and we will head over to that folder, in which folder we have all of the anime sprite sheet right over here, as you can notice inside my skeleton folder. So I'm gonna select all of them, and we're gonna do the same thing as we have done with the work sprite. So if I select my work sprite, basically this enemy work sprite, then go over to inspector, we can notice we have chosen pixel per unit to 25 and filter mode to point of filter. So we're gonna do the same thing with all of this. So we're gonna select all of them by holding down shift, or you can just hold down control in order to select individually. So we're gonna select all of them. Let's go over to inspector and pixel. Firstly we're gonna make this pixel per unit to 25 and filter mode to point of filter. So we already have done it. I'm really apologize for just explaining it twice. And after doing that, make sure you just click on this apply button in the bottom right. And now we are done. So we're gonna make the animation, and we just gonna have all of those animation clips like attack, taking damage, like those. So first animation we're gonna make is the work one. To do that, what we can simply do, we need this animation tab. And if you're not able to find your animation tab, then go over to window in the top bar, then go over to animation in the bottom, and we can see the animation. And if you press down Ctrl 6 on your keyboard, it's gonna bring up the animation tab as well. And also I have the animator tab next to it, so as you can see. So I hope you get the idea. And in order to make the animation in a fast way, we're gonna use another method. Basically we need to select the sprite sheet. So we're gonna work with our first you can simply say the work one. But before we do, let's create a animation folder to keep our project clean. So what we need to do, we need to move over to this project tab, then just move over to this assets folder, right click on it, then create in the top, then folder, and you can name that folder to something like animation. I already created a animation folder, as you can notice right over here. So I'm gonna create a subfolder. So why are we creating folder? We just creating our folder to keep our project clean, or you can say simply say in organized way. So I'm gonna select my animation folder. Let's create a subfolder for our animation. So I'm gonna right click on that animation folder. Let's go to create in the top, then folder, and I'm gonna call this folder to something like anime 5 underscore animation. So I'm gonna call this one anime 5 underscore animation, and let's double click on it in order to open that. Now we created this folder, and we're gonna place all of our anime 5 animation clip inside this folder. So I'm gonna move over to my assets one more time, then sprites folder. So let's move over to our sprites folder, then we're gonna move over to that folder, so inside my skeleton folder. And we have the work sprite sheet right over here, as you can notice. So just click on this arrow icon in order to see the individual. So what you need to do in order to make the animation in a fast way, you basically need to click on this arrow firstly, and you need to select individual sprite, basically all of them. So I'm going to select all of them by holding down shift, and then drag it top of this anime 5 game object in the hierarchy. So make sure you just drag it top of this anime 5 game object in the hierarchy. And as soon as we drag it, it's gonna make the animation right away, as you can see. And we need to choose a folder where we want to place our anime. So I will go to top left arrow icon, so I'm gonna click there, and I'm gonna choose this asset. So as you can see that inside our assets folder, we created this animation folder already. So I'm gonna open that up by double clicking on it. And we can also notice we have the anime 5 underscore animation folder, which we recently created, basically the subfolder. So I'm gonna open that up by double clicking on it. And now we have to name the animation, what we want to name it. So this animation will be the work one, so we can simply call it anime 5 underscore work. So let's call it anime 5 underscore work, something like that. And after doing that, let's click on the save button. And now if we select our anime 5, then go over to animation tab, and then click on this play button over here, we can see indeed our anime just playing the work animation clip over again and again. And if we choose our anime, then move over to animator tab, we can see the anime 5 underscore animation, as you can see. So now we need to create other animation like attacking on our player game object, basically taking damage, and all of those. So let's do that. So I'm gonna move over to my project app one more time, and let's go over to, let's find out the attack one. So I'm gonna find out the attack one. So we have it over here. I'm gonna choose this one, basically attack one. So let's select that, go over to inspector, let's click on this open a sprite editor. So as you can see, it slices individually but automatic. So instead of doing automatic, we're gonna do grid by cell count as we have done with the walk one. So let's click on the slice button in the top left side in our sprite editor tab, and we're gonna select automatic to grid by cell count, and let's count how many columns and rows we have. So 3 6 9 10. So we have 10 columns, so we're gonna put 10 columns and one row. And after doing that, let's click on this slice and let's click on this apply button in the top right, and I'm gonna select my game view once again, and let's go to that spreadsheet and let's click on this arrow in order to see the individuals. As you can see, so we're gonna select all of them by holding down shift, but before you do, make sure you select the spreadsheet and then click on this arrow in order to see the individual, and then select all of them by holding down shift and then drag it to the top of this enemy 5 game object in the hierarchy tab. And it's as you can see, it's gonna create the animation. And once again we need to choose the folder, so we will go to assets, then animation, anime 5 animation. So this just gonna be the attack animation clip, so we can call this one simply anime 5 underscore, let's call it anime 5 underscore attack. And let's click on this save button in the bottom right, we can see, to create the animation. And now if I select my anime 5, then go over to animation tab and then click over here and then choose this anime 5 underscore attack and then click on this play button. As you can notice, it's playing the attack animation clip over again and again, and we can see that animation clip as well in our animator tab, which is attack, as you can see right over here. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna create our take damage and the heart animation clip of this anime 5 game object, and also the die one. So let's do the same thing with them. So let's go to project tab, I'm gonna select the heart. So let's select the heart one. So we have it over here, so let's select that. Let's go over to inspector, let's click on its open sprite editor. So we can notice we have 5 columns, so let's click on this slice and we're gonna put 5 columns and one row. Let's click on this slice, then apply, and we're gonna select them, and let's drag it top of this anime 5 game object in the hierarchy. Let's go to assets, animation, anime 5 animation, and this will be the heart one, so we can simply call this one anime 5 underscore heart. So let's call that, and after doing let's click on this save button, and as you can see, it's done. And now let's do the same thing with our tie. So let's find that out first. So I have it over here, so let's select that, go over to inspector, let's click on this open sprite editor, and we need to count how many columns and rows we have. So 4 8 8 8 12 13. So we're gonna put 13 columns, sorry. So we will put 13 columns and one row. Let's click on slice, then apply, and let's select this and let's drag it over to top of this anime 5 game object. So it's gonna make the animation. So let's go to assets, animation, anime 5 animation folder, and this will be the die one. So we're gonna call this anime 5 underscore die, and let's click on that save button or hit enter, and we can see those animes. If I select my anime 5, then go over to my animation folder, animation tab, and then choose this die one and then click on this play button. As you can notice, it's playing the die animation clip over again and again. And if we choose the heart one, then click on this play button, we can see the animation playing over again and again. So basically means it's fine, as you can see. So we created all of those animation clip, and we can see inside our animator tab. So we need to make transition between this animation clip. So I hope you get the idea that how you can do it, and make sure you just make your anime 5 game object a prefab, so you will have the copy. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna select our anime 5 in the hierarchy tab, and let's drag it over to this assets folder. But before you do, make sure you just create a subfolder, create a folder and name it to something like prefabs by right clicking on it, create folder, and name that folder to something like prefabs. And I already created a prefabs folder, as you can notice right over here. So again, we're gonna double click on it in order to open that up, and I'm going to select my enemy 5 game object in the hierarchy, and let's drag it over to that folder, inside that folder, as you can see. And I don't want some animation clip to be looped, something like taking damages, basically playing the heart animation clip as well that I don't want those animation clip to be looped. So to unloop that, basically to and to not looping that, we need to do a settings. For that, we basically need to move over to our project tab, assets, and then animation folder. Basically, you need to move over to that folder in which folder you created those animation clip. So I do know that I have created inside this animations folder, so I'm gonna move over to that folder. Then I will move over to my anime 5 animation folder, and we can notice all of those animation clip. We have the attack, we have the dive, we have the heart, as well as wow. So I'm gonna choose the heart and the dive one. So let's choose them by holding down control, then go over to inspector in the top right, and we can see loop time. So I'm gonna uncheck. So this animation clip not gonna be looped at all, and we need to make transition between those animation clip. So we need to select our anime 5 in the hierarchy, then move over to your animator tab. So we need to make transition between this animation clip. So if I just go ahead and then click on this play button in the top, you will see as soon as our game just gonna start, it's gonna play the anime 5 underscore walk animation clip. Why? Because we have chosen that animation clip as the default one, so that is the reason. And you will notice that. So just wait a little moment. So now we can see it's playing the work animation clip as soon as our game started. And let's suppose you want other animation to be loops. Let's suppose you want this let's suppose this attack one. So we can simply select that animation clip inside our animator tab, and then we can simply select that clip, and we can right click on it and then click on this set as layer default state. And as soon as we have chosen, as you can notice, it's playing the attack animation clip over again and again. So I hope you get the idea that how you can do it. So I'm gonna get out of play mode, and I want this work one to be the default one. So I'm gonna choose that. Let's right click on it and set as layer default state. And now we're gonna make transition between this animation clip. So from this work, we're gonna make to this attack. So let's right click on this and let's click on this make transition, and we're gonna make the transition to attack, and let's select this transition, can then move over to inspector, and we're gonna uncheck this has exit time, as well as we're gonna set this transition duration to 0. Why? Because as soon as our player just gonna be close enough to this enemy game object, it should play the attack animation clip right away. So that's why we just uncheck the has exit time, as well as we just set the transition duration to 0. And we need to choose a condition in which condition we want to play that animation clip. For it, we're gonna move over to animator tab, then we're gonna choose this parameter, and we're gonna click on this plus icon, and we will choose a bool parameter, and we can call this parameter to something like attack. So let's call it attack. And what we're gonna do now, we're gonna move over to inspector, but before we do, we need to select the transition, then go over to inspector, scroll down to this condition, and let's click on this plus icon in order to choose that condition, and we're gonna say if attack is true. And now if we just go ahead and then click on this play button, and if we set this attack parameter manually to be checked, basically means true, you will able to notice it's gonna play the attack animation clip. Why? Because we have chosen that condition from our work to attack. So that is the reason. So just wait a moment. And now if we move over to animator tab and check this attack parameter, basically set it to true manually, we can notice it's playing the attack animation clip over again and again. And we also need to go back to work animation clip, or else we will stuck in this attack animation clip forever. So we're gonna get out of play mode, and also we need to set the we need to set, or basically we need to move over to work animation clip once again, once our player game object it's not in attack range of this enemy game object. So we're gonna select our attack animation clip, let's right click on it, and let's make transition back to our work. And we're gonna select this transition, and we will go to inspector. We're gonna uncheck this has exit time, because as soon as our player is not attack range, then this enemy need to play the work animation clip instead of the attack one right away. So that's why. And we're gonna set the transition duration to 0, and we're gonna scroll down and let's click on this plus icon, and we will choose attack is false. Basically we have chosen that condition, means if we set this attack parameter to false, basically means uncheck, it's gonna play the work animation clip. Why? Because we have chosen that condition, as you can notice in the inspector from this attack to our work. So now let's click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, and let's try to set this attack parameter manually, and you will able to notice that. So just wait a moment. So now if I check this attack parameter manually, basically set it to true, we can see it's playing the attack animation clip. But if I set uncheck, basically means false, we can notice it's playing the work animation clip by now. So we need to set this parameter through our code. So I'm gonna get out of play mode, and we also need to make transition to this heart as well as the die one. So what we need to do, we need to make transition, and we're gonna make the transition from any state, no matter if the player is walking, basically moving left and right around this ground, or basically attacking this player, no matter what which state basically whatever this enemy is doing, if this enemy takes damage, it's need to make the it's need to play the heart animation clip right away. So that's why we're gonna make the transition from this any state, no matter what this player is doing. If the player is taking damage, then we need to play the heart animation right away, that animation clip, and we don't want to do any other thing like that. So that's why. So we're gonna select our any state, let's right click on it, and let's make transition to our enemy 5 heart, and we're gonna choose this transition, then go over to inspector, and we will uncheck this has exit time as well as transition duration. We're gonna choose it to 0, because we just want to play the heart animation animation clip right away as soon as this enemy just takes damage. And now we need to choose a condition. In the bottom we can see it says list is empty, so we're going to choose a second condition for it, and we will choose a trigger. To do that, we basically need to move over to this animator tab and then click on this plus icon, and we're going to choose a trigger, and we can call this trigger to something like heart. So let's call it heart, and we're gonna choose this condition. To do so, let's go over to inspector and let's click on this plus icon in the bottom, and we're gonna click over here, and the condition we're gonna choose heart. And now if we just go ahead and then click on this play button and try to trigger this heart parameter manually, you will able to notice it's gonna play the enemy 5 underscore heart animation clip right away. Why? Because we have chosen that condition, so that is the reason. So just wait a moment. And now if I just trigger this heart parameter manually, we can notice it's played the heart animation clip as soon as we triggering. But the problem is that we stuck in this heart animation clip forever. So we also need to make transition to work or attack depending upon where our player game object is. So we're gonna get out of play mode, and let's make transition to heart to our attack, sorry, work. So we're gonna right click on it, let's make transition back to work, as well as we're gonna make the transition to attack, and let's select the back transition, and we will go over to has exit time, and we're gonna leave the exit time, and exit time we're gonna choose 1. Basically why we have why why we just leave it as a check, because we want to play the 100% animation clip of the heart of this enemy game object, so that's why. And after that it's need to play the walk or the attack animation clip depending upon where player is. And we're gonna choose the transition duration to 0, because we want to transition to this bug animation clip once our heart animation clip played 100%, and once over one right over here basically means 100%. And we need to choose a condition in the bottom in which condition we want to play. So we're gonna click on this plus icon, and then we're gonna choose attack to false, or we can just we don't need to choose any condition. And if we don't choose any condition, and then it's gonna make the animation right away after playing the heart animation clip 100%. So we're gonna leave this, but we're gonna choose this attack. So we're gonna choose our transition from this heart to our attack. So let's select this transition, then go over to inspector, and we're gonna check we're gonna leave it this has exit time as checked, because since we want to play the 100% animation clip of this heart game sorry, heart animation clip of this player game object, so that's why. And exit time we're gonna choose 1, basically means 100% we're gonna play the heart animation clip. And transition duration we're gonna set it to 0, and we will scroll down, and we need to choose a condition in which condition we want to play this attack animation clip. So we're gonna click on this plus icon, and we're gonna choose that if attack is true. If that is the case, then it's gonna play the attack animation clip. So let's take that out. So I'm gonna click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, and you will see. So as soon as we're gonna trigger our heart parameter manually, it's gonna play the heart animation clip. And if we just and after playing that, it's gonna play the walk or the attack depending upon what our enemy game object is doing. So if I trigger this heart parameter, as you can notice, as soon as it's play the heart animation clip, it's just moving over to this bug animation clip. Why? Because we didn't choose any condition, so that's why it's just moving over to automatically. But if I set this attack parameter to true and trigger this parameter, as you can notice, we can see that if we can see that it's playing the 100% animation clip of heart animation clip of this player game object. And after that it's just playing the attack animation clip, as you can see. So I hope you get the idea of this, and we're gonna get out of play mode, and we also need to make transition to this enemy 5 underscore die. So we need to make transition. So let's and we're gonna do the same thing as we have done with our heart, because no matter what this what this enemy game object is doing, if this enemy game object loses all of his health, then we need to play the die animation clip right away. So that's why we're gonna make the transition from any state. So let's select this any state, let's right click on it, and let's make transition to our enemy 5 die. And we're gonna select this transition, let's go over to inspector, and we're gonna leave the has exit time, and exit time we're gonna set it to 1, basically means 100%, and transition duration to 0. And if we choose if we scroll down bottom, and we need to choose a condition in which condition we want to play this animation clip. So we're gonna play this animation clip a clip for a trigger parameter. Basically we're gonna choose another parameter for this. To do so, let's move over to animator tab, let's click on this plus icon, and we're gonna choose a trigger, and we can call this trigger to something like that, or let's call it die. So I'm gonna call it date simply, and we're gonna choose this condition. So let's click on this plus icon, and let's choose this date. And no and we're not gonna make transition back to our heart attack or bug, since this enemy game object loses all of his health, then it's need to play the die animation clip, and after that it's need to destroy itself. So that's why we basically not choose basically we didn't make any transition back to our heart, walk or attack. And now let's click on this play button in the top, and if we trigger this death parameter manually, you will able to notice that. So just wait a moment and you will see. So now if we move over to animator tab, so just wait a moment, animator tab, and then trigger this state parameter, as you trigger this. As you can see, as soon as we trigger it, it's played that death or the die animation clip. Basically it's fine, and now it's stuck in die animation clip, and we're not gonna make transition back to our heart attack or bug. So we're gonna get out of play mode, and now what we need to do, we need to move this player left and right. So we need to make we need to set this parameter in our animator tab. We can see this parameter, so we need to set it our inside our script, and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do it later. For now we need to move this enemy left and right. Basically it's need to patrol around this ground. So what we're gonna do for that, we're gonna move over to our project tab, and we're gonna create a script for this enemy 5. So I'm gonna move over to my project tab, assets, and let's right click on it, then create in the top, and then click on this mono behavior script, and you can name that script to something like enemy 5. And I already created a script called test enemy, so you can just name that script anything you like with any name. So I'm gonna select my enemy 5 in the hierarchy, and I'm gonna select that script, and let's drag it over to this add component section in the inspector in order to attach. Or what else you can do, you can simply click on this add component, and you can find the script by typing name of the component, which is test enemy, and as soon as we type it, just pop up and click on it in order to attach that. And now we're gonna open up our enemies test enemy script. So let's double click on that in order to open that up in Visual Studio. So as you can see, we have the start and update function by default. So what we need to do, we're gonna move over to this update function. Since this update function as runs every single frame, so we need to move this enemy every single frame to the left or right direction, or basically it's need to patrol around this ground. So let's do that. To do it, we're going to move over to our update function, and we will go to transform sorry, we're going to move over to transform dot translate function. And this transform dot translate function as a first argument, so what we basically doing, we just going over to this enemy 5 game object transform, basically this, as you can notice in the inspector, and we using this translate function. And this translate function in brackets, it's gonna take the direction in which direction you just want to move. So since I want to move to the left direction, so I'm gonna use vector2 dot left. So we're gonna type this vector2 dot left. It's basically means that -1 in the x. So -1 in the x means this player will move towards to the left direction, and y in the 0. So since we don't want to move this in the y axis, so that's why we have chosen this vector2 dot left. It basically means -1 in the x, so it will move to the left direction, and y in the 0. So this player it's not gonna move at all in the y axis. And we also need to multiply these things with time dot delta time, since we're doing inside our update function. Basically we just want frame rate independence, so that's why we need to multiply with this time dot delta time. And let's close that up with semicolon. So it's gonna move to the left direction, but it's gonna do little bit basically slowly. It's gonna move with 1 unit every single frame. To speed up our movement, we can simply multiply these things with some numbers, something like we can multiply with 5f, or let's do it I'm going to do with 2f, a little bit faster. But instead of doing hard coding, we will go to top of our class, and we're going to make a variable for our speed. So let's make a variable. So we're going to make public, so we can adjust underneath our inspector, that will be float, and we can call this one something like move speed. So let's call it move speed, and by default I'm going to set equal to something like 2f. And now we're gonna replace this 2f with our move speed, and move speed we have chosen 2. So this will be -1 in the x-axis. So -1 into move speed, which is 5. So move speed we have chosen 2. So -1 into 2, it's gonna be -2. Basically means this enemy right over here, it's gonna move to the left direction with -2 unit. but since we made this field public, so we can adjust underneath our enemy. You can simply say enemy 2 is enemy 5 game object. So we're gonna press down Control S to save our skip, and now let's move over to Unity, and you will able to notice that so as soon as our game just gonna start, you will able to notice this enemy game object, it's gonna move to the left direction. Enemy 5 game object, it's gonna move to the left direction with our move speed that we just multiplied with that number. And we do know we just made it public, so we can just simply adjust that value underneath our test enemy script, or you can say something like enemy script underneath your enemy script, but name it to something like enemy, to name it to something like as I did over here, which is test enemy. So now if we just go ahead and then click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, you will able to notice as soon as our game just gonna start, this enemy just gonna start moving to the left direction. So just wait a moment and you will see. So now we can see indeed it's moving to the left direction, but the problem is that it's just going over to left direction again and again, basically just going over again and again. So what we want is, I'm gonna get out of play mode. What we want, we just want to move. So let's suppose if the enemy is somewhere over here, so it will be not in the ground, so it's just gonna be over here. So if the enemy is here, then we just want to flip this enemy to the right direction, and if the enemy is over here, then we gonna again flip this enemy to the left direction. So to do that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a point somewhere over here, and we're gonna shoot out a ray, and from if that ray don't collide with that, so if the enemy is somewhere over here, so that ray not gonna collide with this ground, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna flip this enemy. So to do that, firstly I'm gonna make my move speed a little bit slow. So I will move over to my test enemy script or enemy script, and I'm gonna make the move speed to something like 1.2, something like that. And we're gonna create a point, and from that point we just want to shoot out our ray. To do so, we're gonna open up our enemy script by double clicking enemy. In my case, test enemy. So to do that, basically we just want to shoot out a ray, and to shoot out our ray we need to use a function called physics2d.raycast. So we need to use this physics2d, and make sure you do inside this update function, because we do know that update function runs every single frame and we need to check every single frame, so that's why. So we're going to use this physics2d.raycast function, and this function as a first argument, it's going to take the point from where we want to shoot out the ray. So we're going to create a point somewhere over here, and the second thing, it's going to take the direction. So we're going to shoot out the ray in the down direction, so we can simply use vector2 dot down, and the third argument, it's going to take the length of that ray, so we're going to define that as well. And the fourth argument, it's going to take the game object that we want which one we want to check with. Since we're going to check with this ground, so we need to assign this ground as a ground layer, or we need to assign this game object with some layer, you can simply say. And now what we're gonna do, so we need those variables, so that's why we're gonna make this comment by double forward slash, and we do know that the comments basically don't interrupt our code. So we will go to top of our class, and we need to graph the reference. So first thing, we need a point from where we want to shoot out. So let's make a public, and that will be transform, and we do know this transform over here is responsible for position, and we can call this one something like detect point. So let's call it detect sorry detect detect point or detect position. And the second thing, we need the direction. So for that we don't need to assign it, so we can just leave that, and we can move over to third argument, which just gonna take the length of the ray. So let's make a public, and that will be float, and we can call this one ray length or distance. And I'm gonna call it something like distance, and by default I'm gonna set it to something like 0.5f, and let's close that up with semicolon, basically a smaller number. And the fourth argument, it's going to take the game object that we want to check with. So we're going to make a public, and we need to type this layer mask, and we can call this something like what is ground or target layer. Let's call it what is ground, what is ground, and let's close that up with semicolon. And now we're gonna press down Ctrl S to save our script, and we're gonna move over to Unity editor, and you will able to notice those fields just gonna pop up underneath our test anime script. So the first thing just gonna pop up our point, detect point. So we need to create a point from where we want to shoot out our ray. And the second thing, it's gonna take that direction, which we can just put vector 2 dot down. So just wait a moment, and we can notice as soon as our script just gets compiled, we can see we have the detect point distance and this what is ground. So we need to create our detect point. So we will select our anime 5 game object in the hierarchy. Let's right click on it, and let's create an empty child game object inside this anime game object, anime 5 game object. And we can call this game object to something like detect point. So let's call it detect point, and we're gonna move over this point or position somewhere over here. So make sure you just take it a little bit further away from your anime game object. So we're gonna move it somewhere around here. And if you want to choose an icon, if you just want to see it, then go over to inspector and then click on this plus icon, and we're gonna choose this one. So from this point we want to shoot out the ray in the down direction. So we're gonna choose our anime 5, and let's select this detect point, and let's drag it over to this detect point field underneath our test anime script or anime script. And what is ground? As you can see, it says nothing, so we're gonna choose our ground. But before you choose your ground, make sure you select this ground. So in my case, this style ground. So I'm gonna move over to my grid tile map, and I'm gonna choose this you can say back tiles. So as you can see, we have chosen this game object or this ground. So make sure you choose that, then go over to inspector. In the top right, you're gonna see layer, and it will be default. So just click on it, and then click on this add layer, and then name the layer what you want. Name it to something like ground. As you can notice, I already created, and make sure you hit enter. And after doing that, select that game object once again, which is in my case ground. So select that, then go over to inspector and assign with the layer that you recently created. Basically click on this layer in the top right, we can see, and from this default choose to ground. Now we assigned this ground as a ground layer, as you can notice in the inspector. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna select our anime 5, and we will move over to our test anime script, and we're gonna choose what is ground to our to our ground. Now the ray only gonna check with this ground only, and we're gonna open this up. So let's open up, and we are ready to shoot out the ray. And we're gonna remove these two forward slashes. Basically we're gonna use this physics 2d dot raycast function, and we have all of this reference. Basically we have the detect point and all of those things. So as a first argument, it's gonna take the point from where we want to shoot out. So we're gonna pass our detect point dot position, and the second thing, sorry, detect point dot position, and the second thing, it's gonna take the direction. So we're gonna use this vector 2 dot down. Vector 2 dot down basically means 0 in the x, so it's not gonna be to the left or right, and -1 in the y, so it's gonna be down. So -1 in the y basically means in the down. So we want to shoot out the ray down direction, so that's why we use this vector to dot down. It's basically means 0 in the x but -1 in the y, so it's gonna be in the down direction. And the third argument, it's gonna take the length of the ray, or simply say the distance. So I'm gonna pass my distance or the length of the ray, and by default, as you can notice right over here, I have chosen 0.5. And the third argument, it's gonna take the layer mask. So we will pass our what is ground, and we do know that what is ground, we have chosen our this backgrounds, basically this platform ground, you can simply say. And now this physics2d.raycast function is gonna shoot out the ray from this position in the down direction with this much of plan, and it's only gonna check with what is ground, which in our case this ground only. So now this just gonna shoot out the ray, and we're gonna store the ray, basically the result, into a raycast hit 2d. Why? Because this physics2d.raycast, it's gonna work like as a raycast, so that's why we need to put it in a container called basically we need to create a variable for raycast, so we can use this raycast hit 2d function, hit 2d, sorry, you need to use this parameters called raycast hit 2d. Why? Because this physics2d dot raycast, it's gonna work like as a ray, so that's why. And we can call this one to something like hit, so let's call it hit, and let's set equal to this. So this hit right over here can be true or false depending upon if the ray is really colliding with this ground or not. So we created the ray, and the ray just gonna shoot out from this point, and it's gonna move to the down direction. So let's suppose if the ray collide with this platform ground, then this function over here, it's gonna give us a true value, else it will give us a false value. So this right over here hit, and we storing that result into this raycast hit 2d variable, or a raycast hit 2d container or parameter, you can say. So this hit can be true or false depending upon if the ray is really colliding with this platform ground or not. So let's suppose the enemy is somewhere over here, so the ray over here, it's not gonna collide with this platform ground at all. So this over here, it's gonna be false, so that's why this hit over here, it will be false. So what we will do in the next time, we're gonna check, sorry, I'm gonna put this over here. So I'm gonna check if, so we're gonna use this if condition. Let's make first bracket and some curly brackets, and what we want to check over here inside these brackets, we want to check if hit is equals to false. If that is the case, basically means the enemy is over here, because the ray not gonna collide with this ground, so that this function gonna be false. So that's why this hit right over here will be false, and we're checking if hit is equals to false, means the ray not colliding with that platform or ground. So now what we need to do, we need to flip our enemy, but before we flip, we just want to check out if it's working or not. So to check that out, we're gonna print out a message. For printing out, we're gonna use this debug.log function, and this function it's gonna take a string, so make sure you just type this quotation, and inside this quotation you can just put whatever you want to see in your console tab. So I'm gonna say something like flip enemy, something like that, flip enemy, and let's close that up with semicolon, and we're gonna press down Ctrl S to save our script, and we're gonna move over to a Unity editor. So just wait a moment, and you will see as soon as our script just gonna gets compiled, we will able to notice that. So just wait a moment, and it's now done. But the problem is that we're not able to see our ray. So in order to see our ray, so what we need to do, we need to use a function called all draw gizmo selected function, and we're gonna make it somewhere over here. You didn't need to make it over here, you can do it anywhere. You doesn't need to be in order, basically. So we need to use this on draw gizmo selected function, and make sure you just type as I did over here, else it's not gonna work. So what this function just gonna do, it's gonna draw the ray, and in order to draw the ray, or we need to use this physics2d, sorry, we need to use this gizmos2d, I really apologize, not gizmos2d, basically gizmos, and then we need to type this dot, and we need to use this draw ray function, and gizmos dot draw ray function, as a first argument, it's going to take the point from where we want to draw. So we're going to draw the ray from this redirect point dot position, and the second thing, it's going to take the direction. So we will pass a vector to dot down, basically means down in the y -1, and we will multiply this direction with our length of the ray, so we can see our ray. So we're going to multiply this direction with length of the ray, which is distance, and we're going to close that up with semicolon. So this function, it's just going to call pyQuantity automatically. It's going to draw the ray from this detect point dot position in the down direction, as you can notice. But we're going to get a problem. Let's suppose you didn't select your detect point, and this detect point field underneath our enemy script is empty, so we don't have the detect point. But over here we are still trying to get that detect point, as you can see right over here, and we just drawing the ray in the down direction. So if you didn't assign it, then this function won't able to find this detect point, so that's why it's gonna throw us an error. So before we draw the ray, we need to check if we assign it or not. Basically, if you drag it this detect point field to detect point or not. So we're gonna check that out. So if detect point, so we're gonna type this detect point, if it's equals to null, basically means that is empty, then what we're gonna do, so let's make some curly brackets, then we're gonna type this return. And return return basically means whatever you gonna do after return, it's not gonna be execute, means our array just gonna stop drawing. But we do know that this detect point is not empty, it's basically we just assign it. So this condition over here, if condition getting false, so that's why this return will not be execute, basically means our array just gonna draw from that position. So, and we also can choose a color with which color we just want to draw with. So I'm going to choose yellow color. So to do that, we need to use this gizmos dot color, and we can set the color equal to that we would like to draw with. So I'm going to choose yellow color, so we're gonna type this color dot yellow. You can just go with any color you just want to go with, and I'm going to close that up with semicolon, and we're going to press down Ctrl S to save our script. And now let's move over to Unity. So you will able to notice, as soon as our script just gonna compile, that ray just gonna draw from that detect point, and it's gonna shoot out in the down direction, and the distance, basically length of the ray, is 0.5, as you can notice underneath our test enemy script. So just wait a moment and you will see. And now, as you can notice, as soon as our script just gets compiled, we can see the ray and it just shoot out in the down direction with this much distance, basically length of the ray. As you can notice, it's the ray not gonna collide with this platform ground once the enemy is over here or is on the ledge. So I'm gonna drag it over here, and if we select our console and then click on this play button in the top, and if the ray don't collide with this platform ground, and we do know that we printing out this message, as you can see right over here, which is flip enemy. So you will see, so as soon as our enemy just gonna be at the end of our platform ground, the message just gonna pop up, because the ray not gonna collide with that ground at all. So that's why. So just wait a moment and you will see. So now we can see that, as you can see, indeed once the enemy is over here. So if I click on this pause button in the top in order to pause my game, so once the enemy is over here, basically the ray not colliding, and then if we move over to our console tab, we can see the flip enemy message just gets pop up, and we can see that one more time. So I'm gonna clear my all of messages. So inside this console tab in the top left, you can see clear, so just click on it in order to clear. And I'm gonna select my enemy once again, and let's move it over here. So if the enemy, so I'm gonna make the move speed a little bit slow. So I'm gonna move over to my test enemy script, and let's make the move speed something like 0.5. So if the enemy is somewhere over here, so this ray not gonna collide with this platform ground, so the message in our console tab just gonna pop up. So let's click on this pause button in the top one more time in order to unpause our game. So let's click on it, and you will see, as you can see, indeed as soon as enemy is over here, if we move over to our console tab, we can see the message just getting pop up says flip enemy. So instead of printing out message, what we need to do, we need to flip this enemy to the right direction. So I'm gonna get out of play mode, so let's click on this play button in the top in order to get out of play mode. And I'm gonna press down Ctrl S to save my script, to save my project, sorry. Just wait a moment. So instead of printing out message, what we want to do, we want to flip our enemy. So just wait a moment. So I'm gonna click on this play button one more time. Basically I just want to get rid of that white background, you can simply say. So just wait a moment and you will see. It's now done. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of play mode. So now it's fine. So what we want to do now, we basically want to flip our enemy. So if we select our enemy 5 in the hierarchy, then go over to inspector, then transform, and then rotation. And if we play around with the y axis, so basically if I put y, it is something like minus 180. As you can see, as soon as we put minus 180 or 180, it flips to the right direction. So basically we need to work with this y axis. So I'm gonna set back to 0, and also we're gonna create a variable, a bool variable. We're just gonna keep track of if this enemy basically this enemy which direction this enemy is going or facing. So I'm gonna create a bool parameter to just keep track of which direction this enemy is facing. So we will open up our script and let's go to top of our class, and we're gonna create a bool parameter. So it doesn't need to be public, so we're gonna create a bool private, let's call it bool, and we can call this one something like facing left. So let's call it facing left, facing left, and let's close that up with semicolon. And we're gonna move over to this start function. So this start function get called in the start of the game, and in the start of the game I'm gonna set facing left equals to true, equals to true, and let's close that up with semicolon. Why I set it to true? As you can see, if I move over to Unity editor, this enemy is looking to the left direction. So that's why facing left I just set in the start of the game to true, as you can see. And now we're gonna get rid of this message. So instead of printing out message, what we're gonna do, we're gonna check. So we will check if, so let's make first bracket and some curly brackets. And what we want to check over here, we basically want to check if our enemy is facing left. Basically it's looking to the left direction. So now what we need to do, we need to flip to the right direction. To flip that, we're gonna use this transform dot Euler angles, which gonna have x and x, y, and the z axis. So that's why we're gonna set a new vector 3, and a new vector 3 which gonna have x axis comma y axis comma z axis, and we're gonna close that up with semicolon. So we need to play around with the y. So basically what we're doing, we're just going over to transform, then Euler angles. Basically you can simply say we're just going over to this enemy 5, this transform, then Euler angles, and we just set equal to a new vector 3, because that Euler angles gonna have this x axis, y axis, and the z axis. So in the y, we do know if we set it to minus 180 or 180, it's gonna flip to the right direction. So we're gonna set minus 180 f in the y, and we don't want to mess around with the z axis. So we're gonna put 0f in the z as well as 0f in the x. And after flipping this enemy to the right direction, we do know that it's no longer able to look to the left direction. So that's why after flipping our enemy to the right direction, we're gonna set this facing left parameter to false. So I'm gonna set facing left equal to false, equal to false, and let's close that up with semicolon. Colon, and we're gonna press down Control S to save our script. And now let's move over to Unity, and you will able to notice as soon as this enemy just gonna be over here, basically at the end of this platform ground, it will flip to the right direction, and you're gonna able to notice. So just wait a moment and you will see. So now it's done. And if I move this enemy 5 over here and then click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, you will able to notice that as soon as enemy 5 just gonna be at the end of our ground, it's gonna flip to the right direction. So just wait a moment. So now as you can see that as soon as enemy is over here, it's flipped to the right direction. But the problem is that if the enemy is over here, it's not flipping at all to the left direction. So we're gonna get out of play mode. So let's suppose if the enemy is over here, so if I just put in the y 180 or minus 180, as you can see it's gonna be over here and the ray not gonna collide with this ground. So in that moment what we need to do, we need to set back this y to 0, and if we set it to 0 we can notice this enemy just flips to the left direction one more time. So we need to set this y to one more time back to 0. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna move over to our script, and over here we're gonna check else if our enemy is facing to the right direction. So we're gonna simply copy this line of code and we're gonna paste it over here. Else our enemy is looking to the right direction, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna set the Euler angles in the y to 0. So if we set it to 0, so this enemy just gonna look to the left direction one more time. So after flipping this enemy to the left direction, what we need to do, we need to set the facing left parameter to true once again. Why? Because it's gonna look to the left direction if we flip this enemy back to left direction. So that's why we're gonna set this facing left parameter to true once again after flipping our enemy to the left direction. So I'm gonna set this facing left to true. So else, as you can see, else if our enemy is facing to the right direction, then what we're doing, we're just going over to Euler angles, and in the y we just set it to 0, and we do know that as soon as we put 0 it just looks to the left direction once again. And after flipping our enemy to the left direction, we just set facing left parameter to true, as you can see, because this enemy just gonna look towards to the left direction. So that's why we just set facing left parameter to true once again. And now we're gonna press down Ctrl S to save our script. And now let's move over to Unity editor, and you will able to notice this enemy 5 will just gonna patrol around this ground. And if you want to make transition between those animation clip, then I'm gonna have a video for it. So but before we do, let's click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, and you will able to notice this enemy 5 or this enemy game object just gonna patrol around this ground or this platform ground. So just wait a moment, and we can play around with the distance or basically the length of the ray. As you can see, this enemy just flips, and if the enemy is over here, we can notice again it's just going over to the left direction and the right direction. Basically this enemy just patrolling around this ground, as you can notice. So I hope you get the idea that how you can do it and how you can shoot out the ray. So I'm gonna get out of play mode, and now what we need to do, we basically need to select our enemy 5 or this enemy game object. Then we need to move over to inspector overrides and then click on this apply all, because we can see a plus icon inside this enemy script, test enemy, in my case in the inspector, which is test enemy. So to get rid of that, we need to move over to overrides and then apply all. And this will only gonna happen once you just turn your enemy 5 into a prefab. And we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna select my enemy 5. Let's go over to inspector overrides and let's click on this plus icon in order to get rid of that plus icon. And the changes we made over here inside hierarchy, inside this enemy 5 game object, it will be saved into prefab of this enemy 5 game object as well. And if I move over to animator tab and select this enemy 5 in the hierarchy, so we can set this parameter through our code. As you can notice right over here, so you can set through your code, and I'm gonna have a video in the description that how you can set this parameter, this attack hard death, to true inside your code. I will have a video in the description, you can go and check that out. So I hope you get the idea that how you can make a patrolling enemy. So I will see you in the next tutorial. For now, bye. I will see you in the next tutorial.